tuning into RACQ 6 o'clock news. My name is Connor. Today we have some interesting topics that you need to hear. First off, I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten for the news on the assassinations of JFK and Martin Luther King.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, was assassinated at 12:30 p.m. on Friday, November 22, 1963, in the Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Kennedy was fatally shot while traveling with his wife Jacqueline, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife Nellie in a presidential motorcade. His death marked the fourth assassination of an American president, the other three being Abraham Lincoln, James A. Garfield, and William McKinley. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn into office upon Kennedy's death, taking the constitutionally prescribed oath of office on board Air Force One at Dallas Love Field Airport before departing for Washington, D.C. President Kennedy's motorcade route through Dallas was planned to give a maximum exposure to Dallas crowds before his arrival at a luncheon with the civic and business leaders in that city. President Kennedy was in the second car, a 1961 Lincoln Continental convertible with driver agent Bill Greer, Roy Kellerman, Governor John Connally, Nellie Connally, and his wife Jackie Kennedy. The limousine made the planned left turn onto Elm Street, and shots were fired at Kennedy as they continued down the street. Witnesses say they heard 3 shots. President Kennedy was shot in his upper back, which penetrated his neck, damaging his spinal vertebra and the top of his right lung and exited his throat. Kennedy's blood and fragments of his scalp, brain, and skull landed on the car. Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin, was arrested about 70 minutes after the assassination of JFK for the murder of the Dallas police officer. But his case for the assassination of the president never came to trial because 2 days later he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby on live television.
What's spring?
A springy's been from head to knee.
Bullwinkle and Rocky.
Underdog and Lucky. Free inside Frosty O's and Lucky Charms.
Springy's stand, Springy's bend, Springy's ride.
And hold on to things.
There's a free Springy inside each specially marked box of magically delicious Lucky Charms.
And 3-way energy Frosty O's.
Bullwinkle
And Rocky.
Underdog
And Lucky. Free inside Frosty O's and Lucky Charms.
As we all know, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, so here's a little bit more about the events leading up to the assassination. On April 3rd, King addressed a rally and delivered his "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech at Mason Temple, the world headquarters of the Church of the God in Christ. His flight to Memphis had been delayed by a bomb threat against his plane. He was booked in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel, and then at 6:01 p.m., April 4th, a shot rang out as King stood on the motel's second-floor balcony. The bullet entered through his right cheek, smashing his jaw, then traveled down his spinal cord before lodging in his shoulder. Abernathy heard the shot from inside the motel room and ran to the balcony to find King on the floor. After emergency chest surgery, King died at St. Joseph's Hospital at 7:05 p.m. King's autopsy revealed that though he was only 39 years old, he had the heart of a 60-year-old, which Branch attributed to the stress of 13 years in the civil rights movement. President Lyndon B. Johnson has declared April 7th a national day of mourning for the civil rights leader. Vice President Hubert Humphrey attended King's funeral on behalf of the president, as there were fears that Johnson's presence might incite protests and perhaps violence. 2 months after King's death, escaped convict James Earl Ray was captured at London Heathrow Airport while trying to leave the United Kingdom on a false Canadian passport in the name of Raymond George Sneyd on his way to White-ruled Rhodesia. Coming up after this commercial break, we're going to hear the news on Johnny Unitas and the landing on the moon from Connor.
Hey kids, do you know what's inside specially marked boxes of tricks? Free old-time model airplane kits. You get a Mustang, or a Stuka, or a Zero. Easy to put together and...
Silly rabbit. Free model airplane kits like tricks are for kids.
And sometimes for tricky rabbits.
Welcome back. Johnny Unitas was born on May 7th, 1933 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was the third child in the Unitas family. His father, Leon Unitas, had a small business delivering coal, but he died when Johnny was 5 years old. Helen Unitas, the wife, supported her family by taking over and managing her husband's business, as well as working odd jobs. She took accounting courses at night so she could also work as a bookkeeper. Johnny wanted to be a professional football player as early as age 12. He played quarterback for his high school varsity team. By the time he was a senior, Unitas was recognized locally for his talent and named the all-Catholic high school team in Pittsburgh. After graduating from St. Justin's in 1951, Unitas had a hard time finding a college that he was interested in. He was a small quarterback compared to others. Though he failed the entrance exam for the University of Pittsburgh, he was offered a scholarship to the University of Louisville, which he took. Starting his career out of college, the Pittsburgh Steelers picked him up in the 9th round. However, the team cut Unitas before he even appeared in the exhibition game. He did not give up on his professional career. Unitas' abilities on the field did not go unnoticed. However, a fan brought him up to the attention of the Baltimore Colts of the National Football League. Unitas was given a tryout by the Colts and signed to a contract as a backup to their quarterback, George Shaw. By 1958, things changed for Unitas. He was recognized as the best quarterback in the NFL. He was known for his ability to work well under pressure, as well as for his accuracy in signal calling and passing. The game came naturally to him. He also liked to gamble in games with his play calling. Unitas had his last great season in 1969 and 1970. He was named the NFL's Man of the Year for completing 166 of his 221 pass attempts for only 213 yards and 14 touchdowns. The Colts returned to the Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys. Unitas only played in the first quarter and a half because he suffered a bruised rib in the second quarter. Injury problems would plague him for the rest of his career. In 1971, Unitas began having arm problems. He tore his Achilles tendon in 1971 while playing paddleball, which might have been the beginning of the end. Despite this, the Colts won the NFL championship in 1971. After his retirement of football, he owned a restaurant called the Golden Arm and became a successful businessman.
In the afternoon, when things slow down, when you're wondering what to do, let's go! Go bowling! Nothing brings people together or makes friends so fast as bowling. So call a friend. Bowl Brunswick tomorrow.
The landing on the moon. On July 20th, 1969, something happened that will go down in history. Apollo 11 landed on the moon. When this happened, it changed the space race for our country as well as others. This was like dropping a bomb on the space race. As this happened, the other countries were in awe. Although we weren't the first country to put a human in space, we put the first man on the moon. On the morning of July 16th, Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins sat atop another Saturn V space shuttle at the Kennedy Space Center. Armstrong had many concerns when landing on the moon. Armstrong later confirmed that landing on the moon was his biggest concern, saying there were just 1,000 things to worry about. He didn't really know what was going to happen once he got out of the space shuttle. Some facts that people aren't aware of are NASA didn't provide life insurance to the astronauts that were stepping on the moon or going in the space shuttle. So what they did is they all signed memorabilia for their families in case something bad was to happen to them. When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were heading out to explore the moon, they both had to remember not to fully close the door on the landing module behind them. The door was closed to prevent heat escaping from the cabin, but not completely in case the cabin was somehow repressurized, which could make it difficult to get the door open. Now let's turn to Ella for the verdict on the trial of Adolf Eichmann and the sensational concert at Woodstock.
Adolf Eichmann was a Nazi officer during World War II. He was responsible for the death of millions of Jews in concentration camps and in Hungary. His totals add up to around 4 million deaths in concentration camps and 2 million in mobile extermination units. After the end of World War II, he fled to Argentina, where he managed to evade capture for over 15 years. He was finally arrested by Israeli services in 1960. His trial began on April 11, 1961. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. He was hanged on June 1, 1962.
Puss in Boots brings you new green cans.
Puss in Boots brings you new green cans.
Puss in Boots brings you new green cans. New green cans.
New green cans.
New green cans.
That you pick by number.
Green cans.
New green cans.
New green cans.
That you pick by number.
Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots.
Cans, the best cat food.
Yeah.
In the whole doggone world.
That's one of the cat world.
New green cans.
On a lighter note, Woodstock was a music festival that lasted for 3 days. The festival was held at Max Yasgur's 600-acre dairy farm in Bethel, New York. The 3 days of peace and music began on August 15, 1969. 32 acts performed at the festival and over 400,000 people attended. Some notable acts include the Grateful Dead, Creedence Clearwater Revival, The Who, Jefferson Airplane, Country Joe and the Fish, and Jimi Hendrix. Although this was a peaceful event, there were at least 2 deaths that weekend. One, a heroin overdose, and the other, a sleeping man ran over by a tractor. The 3-day concert came to an end on Monday, August 18th. The last act was Jimi Hendrix performing his iconic Star Spangled Banner on electric guitar to only 30,000 people.